we're able to really focus our efforts on the equity issues, and I'm hoping that you all are looking at the rollout in terms of where in the county those schools are that don't have access to Promethean boards, get them, and moving forward, however I can be helpful as an individual council member, I would be happy to do that. So we'll wait till after the public hearing. We'll get back to you with whether or not the committee's fully in support, and then Mr. Lazio, I never can say your last name. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I mean, they did get back to us, and we're fine with this moving forward, because we just want to go forward with it. We just want to make sure everything was addressed. And last year, I just want to state, that was financially driven, because we were looking at current revenue across all county department, all county government. So that's why that came up.
That.
So it wasn't like, it just popped up from anywhere. We were looking at everyone.
Well, it did pop up in terms of where the council and this committee was on that issue, but we don't discuss what already occurred. We just are hoping moving forward we don't have any surprises.
Because we do reassess every year in the current revenue estimates, and we try to distribute it and make it less painful possible.
Right. Well, that seems to be an issue that you all have with MCPS, but it became an issue for us as well in the budget. So we really appreciate all of your hard work, and thank you for coming to us this morning, and we'll get back to you on the final vote of the committee. You're quite welcome. Sure thing. Okay, we're moving.
Indicates that there's no need for another fire station, but as was stated before, there might be an ambulance need or a staffing routine, but not necessarily a station. Property 5, again, staff supports as drafted. 3 properties that comprise the public green area. And now we go to in the plan. If you're following in the plan, it's page 41, the Burtonsville crossing.
One question about the elementary school. You put in language in there about their standards for building expansion, etc., and vegetation, a vegetated or cool or solar roof. Is that something MCPS is aware of? I mean, they do that sometimes, I don't know if they do it all the time.
They're more than meeting LEED standard. I think some of their
Okay.
buildings are actually LEED silver. They do more geothermal than anybody else.
All I'm asking is if they know about it, that's all.
They
If there's
do.
master plan language,
Okay.
you know, we need it, so I just wanna make sure the players are aware.
We work with them on this, and as you know, the FA property is right next to this, so if there was a property issue about size, we could work that out in some joint development possibility.
That's very generous.
Yeah.
Excellent, okay. No problem, okay, great.
Burtonsville Shopping Center, essentially there was a request for, there was a request for more flexibility than the CR zone currently gives properties. You have development rights retained if you have an approved preliminary plan, and these guys do have a approved preliminary plan. I didn't mean to say you guys, but it's a New Jersey phrase.
This top of page 6.
Top of page 6 and
Sometimes
no,
it'll say you women, or,
No, 4 and 5. Pages 4 and 5. We will say you women, but you got to remember, you guys is the northern equivalent of y'all. So we try to be.
Use guys.
You got to put a use on the end. Use guys. Oh, use guys.
You gotta really work on it.
No, I don't do use guys.
well,
Guide is much less formal and polite than
well, out of respect for their environmental challenges right now, you may use the
Okay.
New Jersey lingo, and particularly in behalf of your mom.
In any event, the people on this site already have rights under their existing under their existing approved preliminary plan. They have flexibility to go 10% above that. At some point, they are bound by the new CRT zone, and to give them the flexibility they really wanted is not something you could do in the master plan anyhow. You would have to do it by a zoning text amendment. So that's not being proposed by staff. Yes.
What if you left that shopping center, and I think it's an issue for the other, under C2, with language in the master plan, that it's eligible for a floating CRT zone when they undergo substantial redevelopment? Because I don't believe anybody's tearing down those centers anytime soon.
Right.
The trouble with this one is it's C1, and C1 has limited uses in it. So that basically they're stuck. You can't redevelop with that C1.
So how limited are the
That's
uses?
one of the reasons that nothing has happened in this
Yeah.
shopping center for all this time, is that the C1 is southern.
You know,
Neighborhood retail only.
So like the grocery
I
store.
thought we were only doing neighborhood retail at a grocery store.
Well, I guess the only difference is it allows the commercial, the residential part.
It allows the
Yeah, and
residential and the broader.
broader
array of
commercial.
residential uses.
Yeah.
For instance, there was a health club
Right.
business that Anderson wanted to go in there, but they couldn't because their square footage requirement was too large for what was permitted in the C1 for that use.
Yeah.
They wanted to do, I don't know how many square.
I guess,
But the zone only allowed the health club to be so big.
I guess in a world where you guys are proposing changing everything, changing the C1 to allow a broader range of uses, which you're going to do by turning everything into CRT, seems like it would have been a reasonable way of allowing more uses and more flexibility within the existing zone, which would accomplish your desire for flexibility without imposing the CRT on everything. I mean,
The trouble with C1 is for places like the Erders Market. You know, the Erders Market. That's which has 10,000 square feet. That's what C is.
That much?
Erders
Next to, the old Blair High School?
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
a little thing
It's
on
for
the corner
teeny
in Dale
tiny
Drive.
dots for commercial. This C1 is what that's intended for. You wouldn't want to be changing that to add lots of.
It's often located near residences, so if you change those uses, then you have unintended
so
consequences.
what's your new zone for that?
Mostly CRT, depending on where it's located, some sometimes CRN, sometimes CRT.
So the CRT, which allows all these uses, but you don't want next to a residential use, because of that,
If
you're
it's
gonna.
close to residences, then it would be converted to CRN. If it's not, it would go to CRT.
So for this, the issue, it shouldn't have been zone C1 in the
Should not,
beginning,
no. Yeah,
I
that's
guess,
my
is
point.
the problem. So CRT would give them a little bit more flexibility. It
Well,
won't solve their problem necessarily.
No.
The market can only answer that.
And their tenant is their problem, as far as I can tell.
But they may want to do other things on that site at some point, short of tearing it all down to put in the housing, because the housing can't go in unless what's there gets knocked down. If you put the housing where the parking is, then there's no parking either for housing or for the retail uses that are there. So you're forcing any kind of substantial change almost to be an all or nothing play. And what if it's not all or nothing over the next 20 years? What if there's not enough demand to do the big thing, and then they can't do anything? Does that get in the way of furthering economic revitalization in Burtonsville?
I want to associate with some of those questions. It seems to me, and we had this discussion in
Langley Park.
Langley Park.
No, it's in
Exactly.
Michigan.
You know, this street front, pedestrian friendly, onto the sidewalk vision is an attractive vision. It is, and the idea that we are going to remake Montgomery County and these old bad suburban strip malls will no longer exist. It sounds great in theory, but we're not dealing with theory. We're dealing with fact, and you're asking people who are invested in the bricks and sticks that exist on the ground to make a living and to turn a profit. And so the imposition of the planner's vision on people's real property as it exists today sometimes impose costs that overwhelm their profits. I mean, it just, you know, it's a great idea that we're going to remake Montgomery County, frankly, in Rollins Stanley's image, but, you know, Rollins gone, and the reality is that people have to deal with the buildings that they own. And so is there some room, you know, yes, someday we still like this vision of living above the store and combined mixed use, but in the meantime, these folks have to turn a profit. And the state, you know, fundamentally with both of these shopping centers, both on the east side and the west side, the state dealt a terrible blow. I mean, these people are suffering horribly, and it's because of a decision the state made to make it easier for commuters from Howard County, which I'm sure, you know, commuters from Howard County appreciate, but the retail is just bleeding. I mean, it's going away. And so to give them, associate with myself with what Mark said, some ability to make a living in the near term, you know, maybe someday Burtonsville will become this smart, walkable, livable community. I'm relatively comfortable with the vision of this plan. It's not going to be a metropolitan center. It just isn't. You know, it's on the, it is where it is. It's a sprawl community, and how much do you want it to develop? And in the meantime, you know, and we had this conversation about Aspen Hill as well. I mean, we still do have suburbs.
Well, so the question is, let me ask you a question. Under what's approved for the Burtonsville Crossing Center site, or whatever their preliminary plan is that at 1 FAR?
No, it's way lower.
It's way lower. So
It's 130,000 square feet is what this all says, and they could go 10% above that.
well, that's without having to comply.
Without having to comply.
comply with any.
Which means they can function, they're legal, they can grow a little bit under
Well,
the old rules without.
The question
They
is,
can also grow more than that, and only the part above that 10% bump would have to comply with CRT. So if they had more than one building, for instance, and one building, you know, consisted of square footage above the 10%, that building would have to comply.
well, my question is, how much leeway do they have for additional commercial development there? I think that's sort of the question.
I mean, let's be careful on the image. Yes, the long-term vision is a bigger one, but it also accommodates the shorter-term vision. The problem with this shopping center is manyfold, but the basic one, they have a giant food store that
Yeah.
cannot be leased.
That's the problem we
and-
cannot fix.
And
We
yes,
can't.
it does. They cannot have an anchor there because of the C1. They cannot have another grocery store because of the lease. And they cannot have another anchor such as the sports store or those because the C1 doesn't allow that. So if you change it to CRT, they will be able to re-tenant that in the short term, and have changed that, what they have over 70% vacancy rate. If they can't get an anchor here in the short run, they're doomed. And so this CRT allows that kind of development, just to re-tenant the thing. It also allows in the long term, the whole smart growth idea that Councilmember Leventhal is talking about.
But it does, you
But
think
it
it does
does
give
allow
them
the short
some
term
room?
as well. It allows them to get going. Our preliminary plan also limits, for better or worse, limits them to 130,000 square feet, which is what they have today. They can't even add a 1 square foot. Now, they'll come back and do a new preliminary plan and change that. We don't have a transportation issue. So those two items, being able to re-tenant what they have and change their square footage a little bit, would get them one step forward and hopefully solve that 70.
They come in the preliminary plan,
Yeah.
they all under the CRT.
Yes.
The first, they can go, they can
So for
increase-
just getting a new tenant,
Sorry. Mr.
No,
Mayor,
no, no.
No,
If they just re-tenant, they're okay. If they want to add a square foot,
if they want to, they can go up an additional 10% or 30,000 square feet.
under
And,
CRT.
and not have to comply with the CRT.
Yeah.
So there is provision in the CR zone to allow some additional development.
And what is it, what more are they seeking? They're
They want
asking for 20%
20%.
more, and you're saying they can have
They
10?
have 10 and they want 20. And we had a lot of discussion
That's
about this
what we talked about in
during the
Tacoma
amendment.
Langley.
The last time
And
we
what did we give
amended.
them in Tacoma Line? What did
We did that
decide?
10%.
The 10%.
But that's actually in the
And
zoning
10% was
ordinance.
satisfactory for BFSOL then?
I don't think so.
No,
I don't think they were very happy about it.
But that was the compromise we reached.
It was a compromise, and yet there was
Because
sort
there
of
was neighborhood concerns
and
at
there
that
was a
time,
there was
right?
a more.
In Tacoma Park,
not really.
no?
I'm not sure there was that, but there
Yes.
was more of a bright line distinction there that more intensive development was not expected until the purple line arrived, and so there was a notion that they needed some leeway during the interim period before the purple line, and so there was language put into that plan, which has been requested for this plan, that says, you know, you don't have to maybe fully comply with the plan during the interim development. And in Tacoma Langley, that had a clear meaning because it was in the period before the purple line arrived. I think here it's less clear what the shopping center owner would consider to be the period when they shouldn't be required to comply with the CRT zone.
but there's another big difference between this and Tacoma Langley and in Tacoma Langley with the proposed coming of the purple line, letting too much happen on the existing site could then prevent the proper articulation of that site to the purple line. There is no comparable project up here that you can't articulate, that you're worried about being able to articulate to. I mean, changing, you know, once you provide access to the back of that property to the park and ride lots, I mean, you haven't solved the issue of deliveries. So what do? Put deliveries on the inside where the parking lot is? That's not going to happen. So, I mean, to me, they're very different animals, and I understand why we tried to limit it in Tacoma Park to preclude the proper development of the center, but there's nothing here to preclude. Now, is the problem that if you give them more leeway here, that what, you have to apply it to every place, and so this is where, you know, footnotes are occasionally useful for making decisions based on individual property and the fact that every shopping center isn't the same, as opposed to trying to hammer everything into a one-size-fits-all.
You can't, in the master plan, you can't say, you can't bump it up from 10 to 20% in the master plan, because the master plan can't override the zoning. So you would have to do it in the zoning ordinance, which means reopening the CRT zone. And I don't know exactly I don't know if there is a way,
You could open the C1
I don't know if
zone
there's
and
a
do the
way
same
to
thing.
say you can increase by 20% only in the Burtonsville, this shopping center. I'm not sure there's a legal
But
way
you
to do
can
that.
footnote anything. You can in C1 zone say you could have an alternate tenant in a place that doesn't confront residential or vex distance. I mean, if you wanted to do this, you could do this. It seems like we seem to be caught by an unwillingness to figure out how you accommodate some of this, as opposed to how do I write a law that I think I can apply everywhere.
Well, part of the challenge is also for us are we interested in achieving these kinds of vision? Because this is always the challenge, where do you draw the line? Because at a certain point, it won't, we'll see if it happens, but the more you change the current rules, you can ensure that change will not occur. You can, I think that's always the challenge
If
with
you
this.
put language in there that says this is
But-
eligible for a CRT floating zone, at a point when they do enough redevelopment to justify doing that, they would not be able to get there. And if they, I would assume you would want to do that because it's economically profitable.
Well,
That would be the reason for wanting to do all that.
do you want to have a lot of drive-through, strip pads? That's really what they want.
Well, could we talk about that? I mean, again, I really think that Burtonsville, first of all, acknowledging good intents on all sides. I mean, you know, the planning board fundamentally wants a really attractive county, and they want every little commercial area to be desirable and nice looking. And some things, you know, it may be your view that a fried chicken drive-through is not desirable, except a lot of people like to eat fried chicken, so it's sort of in the eye of the beholder. I mean, we had I mentioned fried chicken because, you know, we had this discussion in Tacoma Langley where, and I don't mean to pick on Colin, I like him enormously, but he's gone, where he was, you know, violently against.
Much easier.
He was violently against drive-throughs and passionately in favor of ethnic business. Well, it turns out the drive-throughs in Langley Park are ethnic businesses. They're roast chicken and fried chicken, and you know, they have. I'm blanking on the name. Pollo something. I mean, you know.
El Pollo Real.
Well, that's
And
one,
they're
but there's a
everywhere.
bunch of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have the attorney for Eden's here, right? And so
So anyway, in Burtonsville, you're going to drive to get to Burtonsville. Most folks who are going shopping in Burtonsville are going to drive. Someday, maybe, we will have mixed use. Maybe. But that's not where it is right now. Nobody is walking to Giant in Burtonsville. Nobody's going to be walking to these shopping centers for a long, long time. A long time. The only way to get there is to drive. And it is convenient for some number of customers to drive through some number of businesses. They may not be as lovely as we would like, and we might not want them in downtown Bethesda or in Rockville Town Center, but Burtonsville is going to be a drive-to location as far as the